understand your customer. Branding and understanding your customer. To succeed in branding, you must understand the need and wants of your customer and prospect. And by understanding them, you know exactly how you have to present yourself in their eyes in order to secure their trust and purchase. Think of branding as though your company and organization as is a human. A lot of companies, especially the ones I see in Vietnam, are trying to act like we are one very powerful organization. But what they should have done instead is to brand themselves as a human being. The consumers, we as humans, we relate ourselves to the humanized experience much more than unhumanly experiences. So in this day and age, we need branding more and more because there have been a plethora, too many products and services. So what should a brand do? Okay. Branding is not just about getting your target market to select you over competition. It's about understanding and converting them into loyal fans. In order to do that, in my experience, to be honest, there are only two types of excellent brands. The one brand has absolutely no sensitivity, no artistic aspects of branding. They're basically very boring. But what they do really well is they are consistent. So the biggest failure in branding is consistency. I've seen so many big corporations, they spend a lot of money on events, on very expensive marketing plans, but they do it for 1 year and the next year they get bored, the CEO forgot about it, and they lost the money without getting any results. So you can combat it if you are a small company, but you are, hardworking, avid, consistent, pushing out your message all the time. I'm sure to you that even if you are not artistic, creative, you can still be good at branding. That's number one. Very consistent, very persistent. And that brand can be experienced through what you say, through what you advertise, through your product, but also through every decision that your company makes every day. Another example, Starbucks. This example was given in the book by the CEO and founder of Starbucks, I think Mr. Schultz. No, it was in Freakonomics. In that book, I remember that at that time, Starbucks was trying to decide. One person said, the economy is really bad. We want to decrease the cost of toilet paper. We want to create a single sheet toilet paper instead of buying those double sheeted toilet paper. And they were asking the management, should we do that? And the management answer after they have deliberated and had a meeting was, the brand of Starbucks is not selling coffee. Starbucks is selling the experience inside the store. They want to teach the user at the time. Remember, Starbucks, Americans don't really know how to drink coffee. Sorry, Americans, my fellow friends. But Americans don't really drink coffee. They drink decaf coffee. They drink the watered down version of the coffee. People from our countries are probably better experienced at grinding our own coffee, roasting our own coffee, yada, yada, yada. But so the story is Starbucks was one of the first suppliers of coffee. And at the time, people didn't like it very much. They won the market not because their coffee was tasty. They won the market because what they gave was the experience in store. People would come there and could, look out the window, deliberate the idea about life, contemplate what is the existence of themselves. They could go there and pick up their products. The baristas, they're sellers, they're people making coffee, but Starbucks calls them barista. They call them with a fancy word that gives them the feeling of an artisan, of an artist making art. And they create all of these, different kind of smell inside Starbucks. They create the atmosphere, the lighting, and all of that to create the experience that the user will enjoy their stay inside a Starbucks. And so because of that, how can such a brand carry a single sheet toilet paper inside their bathrooms? So if you're deciding, from small, tiny, puny things such as, toilet paper, or you're thinking about your advertising message, or even if you're thinking about developing a new product, think about the positioning and the branding that you need to keep in order to stay beautiful in the eyes of your customers. The second type that are really good are the people, of course, they are extremely exceptionally good at humanizing the brands. They are great artists, they are great psychologists, they are great market researchers. They know all of these creative things to make you feel warm inside. So we've seen a lot of creative advertising. If you live in the US, then Super Bowl, you look at all the funny advertisement, moving, heart-wrenching advertisement. That is the second type of companies that succeed. They are Durex. I love Durex advertising. As a marketer, I think that Vietnamese, one second, I got a question from Ed Anderson. Give me one sec to finish the sentence. Okay, so Durex has great advertising. They associate, it was so difficult for them to be, as a company, you are associated with sex. Okay, so that is already difficult to market, to make it suitable for, different ages or different kind of groups of people, or for conservatives. So what you are, you make money by people having more sex. How do you encourage people having more sex without creating a kind of like a lower, cheap, and kind of immoral brand? So what they chose is humor. They put them humor into all of their advertising, and they try to relate everything to sex, every object and all these kind of situation. And they're really good at being trendy. Whenever something new happens, if you follow Durex advertisement, you can see that every time there's a new trend, they will answer that trend with their own take of the advertisement. And I think that is amazing for the people who are so creative in dealing with such a difficult question. So I've got a question from, I think it's Kwon. And the question is, we have been living in the environment that without lack of perception of how to build up the brand recognition accordingly. You want to capture market share through building brand recognition from startup. So with terms of startup, to be honest, the problem that I have with startup is that they always want to spend as much marketing budget as possible, to think that because we don't have a brand, we need to do that. In my experience, as a startup, what you should do is you should activate the people who you have influence with. So if are your friends and family using your product? How do they feel about it? That's the first thing. Start giving out product for free. Try to have people experience this and give you back feedback, and kind of share the experience with the brands. So you can see that in the restaurant world. Here in Vietnam, we have a very powerful Facebook group of people who go and review different restaurants. So I remember at that time when a lot of startup restaurants, they would go up because they're not known, and people, in terms of restaurant, you need to have friends bring you there, or you need to hear about it from somewhere. So brand is extremely important, more so than advertising. So what they did is they go on to that group and they give a bunch of free coupons for a free meal or a discount on certain products. And after that, they encourage the user to go and review the products in that group. I've seen a lot of my friends who have been in the restaurant business have tried to do that and got a lot of success. So in my thinking, first, think about all the people around you that you can convince them to use the product and experience. Their feedback might be very beneficial for you in order to perfect your brand. Secondly, try to be generous and give people the chance to experience and to try out that product. And lastly, that's when you think about some advertising or promotional ideas where you can encourage people to bring in more people to experience the product. Because to be honest, branding is about getting the advertising is about bringing the clients in, but branding is what keeps the client there. So Ed Anderson has a question. Which Vietnamese brand, preferably small company, impresses me these days? Smaller companies. To be honest, okay, I'm not talking about a company, but I am talking about an organization, for example. I work in a network of startup volunteers. So what I do is we and a bunch of other people are in the startup world, and we teach for free, volunteer, we mentor startups, we try to go to all these kind of different hubs and different programs, governmental, as well as international, as well as other kind of startup hubs and accelerators. But after all of those people that have invited me to be their mentor or their guest speaker or their teacher, in my case, I love, and that's why I stayed as a member, even though we do it completely for free, for volunteering. I love We Create Vietnam. It's an organization where they empower women. That's the first thing, the brand. They empower women startups. To be honest, it's not about sexism that we prefer women entrepreneurs over men entrepreneurs. But with the current social economic system, men have a little bit more opportunity to do startup. You don't have to take care of the children. Well, most of Asian men don't take care of children as much as their female counterparts. When a man, is starting up, he gets a little bit more positive views from the world, from the society. When the women start up, they have more stigma, more difficulty. Also, it's more difficult for them because they have to take care of their children. How about single mothers? How about, people who are starting up from the countryside, from the rural area? All of these things. So, and women have less opportunity to find jobs outside after they give birth or things like that. So basically, they chose a target market, which is women. And the interesting thing is, the directors and all the employees are women. That is a way of branding. It's not that there are no qualified men, but it's because over the years, they have found out that the women workers in that organization can easily empathize with women business. And I love the director of that organization, because most of the people, she doesn't mind going to meet every single startup. She does everything. She appears in everything. That is branding. It doesn't have to involve spending money. It is also you yourself as a business owner appear in what you do. So because she is involved in every aspect, so a lot of people come to her because they trust her. It's not because they give superior service or something like that, but because they trust her. And in startups, what we do is after we have done that program, they remained a program that doesn't talk about funding. It doesn't talk about, pitching, and you gotta do a pitch deck, and you have to, redesign your product. But what they do is just, stay authentic. We need to work with small businesses, even though a lot of big companies ask to join that organization, but they prefer to actually maintain their brand as a partner of small businesses, even though the risk of small businesses to go, Chapter 11, to go bankrupted, is a little bit higher than already established people with the revenue. But they have done all of those things, and you can see the brand inside of what they do and inside of their definition every day without spending any money on advertisement. So that is the one that impresses me. Another small business that impresses me. I've got to think about that. Let me think about it, and then we'll go back to that idea later. So now moving on, what the brand does. So remember, there are two types of people who will succeed at branding. If you have both of them, great for you. First, you should have somebody who's consistent. Don't hire somebody who you think is very artistic, very creative, has a mind for blah, blah. Doesn't work. Even if you have that person and they're not consistent, it will fail. So you've got to be persistent in clearly deliver your message, and you have to know what your message is. Secondly, you have to confirm your credibility in the market, and that doesn't involve creativity. That involves quality assurance. Emotionally connect your target prospect with your product and service. So think of your company and your products as humans. Motivate the buyer to make the purchase, and create a magic bullet of user loyalty. Okay?